Graham's at The Hague. Graham, so to speak. Hi, Graham.
Hey.
Not that. The Hague.
Hey, Tom,
That always
how are
sounds
you?
a little worrying that you've... Anyway, carry on.
How are you? Can you hear me?
I'm good, so loud and clear.
All right. I was just wondering, when did Armando Iannucci start writing government policy? Because this is one of the funniest things I've heard for a long time. Well, it would be if it wasn't so sad, actually. I mean, just to take the A-level English requirement, given how many people actually study A-level English in the UK, that would eliminate about 80% of the population. It would eliminate Lee Anderson, for one. I mean, how would you test it? And then you get to the point of, well, to degree standard. Well, how does that work? I actually know people who have degrees who don't speak English to the standard that they can write it. Now, it's farcical. None of it works. None of it makes any sense. It's performative cruelty. You were mentioning South African businessmen laughing at the UK, yeah? The rest of the world is actually laughing at the UK. It's so farcical, and this is a Labour government. You've got Shabana Mahmood sounding like a pound store version of Nigel Farage, who is a pound store fascist. It's weird. There's something wrong with the country.
The reason for doing this in part is, they say, because those who arrived under the quotes Boris wave will shortly be able to claim indefinite leave to remain, and it would be an expectation that they'd be granted it unless something very bad had happened in the intervening years, and therefore they would be able to access the benefit system. And given the fact that the majority of those people came in and are doing low paid jobs, then maybe the benefit system costs would increase.
Well, can we come back to the English A-level point?
I mean,
because,
you can. I think
most of the country doesn't actually speak English to A-level standard.
I have to say, I'm afraid I don't buy that. I'm afraid I don't buy that.
Well, you don't buy it. You should probably leave London then. I mean, seriously, walk around the streets, man. Speak to people. Most people do not qualify under this criteria, whatever it is, no matter how you try and test it.
Who are you talking about? Are you talking about people who are born in this country who don't speak English?
I'm talking about the fact that you're creating a criteria for immigrants who you desperately need, which is higher than the standard of the actual native people who were born there.
But a lot of people, Graham, Graham, would argue that that's fair, because whether you like it or not, the person that you're walking past in central London who was also born here, who perhaps hasn't had the best of educations or skipped it or whatever, who doesn't know what a subordinate clause is, that they're not going to, they don't have anywhere else to go. This is home.
And the point is that your country desperately needs workers. You have the so-called low-skilled jobs, yeah?
Yes.
Which is one of the main targets of this policy, this travesty of a policy. Unfortunately, you need people to come in and do those jobs, because people in the country either don't want to, or for whatever reason, you've got a massive crisis. Yes, immigration is good. Anybody who says otherwise is missing the point. Graham, your pension won't be paid for. It's that simple.
It is good, but it's not an unqualified, untrammelled good. And
nobody says it needs to be untrammelled, unlimited, or anything else. What we're actually saying here is that if you want to do it properly, don't invent rules like this. It has
felt rather unlimited over the last few years because the increase has been so dramatic.
Yeah. What's the increase, Tom? Net migration was 425,000 in last year, 2024.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost a million in 2022.
No, net migration in 2024 was 425,000. Okay? And 40,000 people came in on small boats, and yet somehow it seems like brown people are the cause of the problem, which is ironic, because you have a brown person who's saying it.
It's so interesting, Graham. You are the first person in a discussion about this to bring up race, and I don't know why you've brought up race. Why is it important to you about the colour of the people?
Most of the immigrants we're talking about here, it's not important to me. Most of the people we're talking about will, sorry, do you always interrupt everybody mid-sentence? The reason I mention it is because most of the people you are talking about will not be white.
Yes, and the reason that is consequential is?
Tom, Come, please stop
What?
being so
Sorry,
seriously.
so
Are you pretending to be this obtuse?
No, just
You've
generally.
got a massive racism problem in the country. Massive racism problem.
So the non-white Home Secretary who announces this is...
dear, let's go there, shall we? Yeah,
Well,
okay.
Graham, you raised it, pal.
Seriously,
You're
man.
the one that
I
started
did
bringing
raise
race
it
into it.
because
Why did you bring race into it?
Shabana Mahmood said things which
Mahmood,
are
but anyway.
performative cruelty. That's what they are.
What? They may well be cruel, but you saying that they're cruel...
There you go, we've admitted it.
Hang on, they may well be, but you're saying they're cruel on
I'm
the
not saying they're cruel on the basis of race.
Do you always interrupt people mid-sentence?
Yes, I do.
Are you being
in this case, I do, because she's chasing the Farage vote. She's chasing the Reform vote, and the Reform voters will vote for Reform. They won't vote for her. They won't vote for Keir. It's a lost cause.
I just think Britain's broken at the minute. I feel like, to put it as an analogy, if you're running short of cash in your house, you've got to go through a financial situation of how much money you have, what's for extras, what's for some necessities. And I feel like this whole situation with the migration, besides for the whole politics and the parties and Nigel Farage and all these other things, there's an element here where you see the average person on the street who's paying his taxes struggling at the minute, whereas he sees these people coming to the hotels, getting their new phones, doing nothing, getting pocket money, and we just seem to think that it seems to be that it's a given that we will have migration and we will allow people to come in. I understand there's an element here of people who are fleeing persecution and things like that, but there has to be some sort of cost-benefit analysis. And I believe that across the parties, you have here like the new party, which is going to be basically all freebies for everybody, which is going to be attractive to a lot of people, especially those people who are already getting the freebies, think, hey, there's a new party, we can join along it. A lot of Labour's promises were along those sort of lines, will allow benefits, will allow refugees, will be very, very attractive. The problem is that financially these things don't actually work.
I mean, that's not what Keir Starmer's Labour Party was promising, sir.
It's not officially been said like that, but it's a well-known fact that Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are predominantly, their fan base is predominantly amongst those who, what shall we say, benefit from the state help. Whereas when it comes to financial difficulties,
don't we all
exactly
benefit
what they're having.
Don't we all benefit from the state? Do you use the NHS?
Of course we all benefit from the state, but we also all have to contribute. And if it's something that we can't afford to donate to, we have to sometimes turn down people and say, unfortunately, you'll get emotional callers coming on and saying, well, what do you mean these people are fleeing persecution? How can you say no to them? Of course, there is an element of we have to take in people, but there has to be a cost-benefit analysis. And we have to sometimes think, you know what, we have to make a quota, we have to work things, regulations coming out, but it can't just be this freebie, people just coming in. We see all these gimmicks coming on with the one in, one out. We see the Rwanda. These are all jokes. Yeah, we have to come up with a real system. My grandparents were refugees, but we have to come up with a system where we can't just keep inviting people. It doesn't make sense that someone who's paying his taxes is watching someone else coming in for free without anything going on about it.
This cost-benefit system that you want, which, we do need to an extent, decent chance that means your grandparents might not have been allowed to come and you wouldn't be in this country. That's still something you'd support?
Yes, that is something I would support. I would support a system where it makes sense. It's not just about the financial aspect, but there has to be a broader outlook here. We can't just have people saying on any time any party makes any sort of move against any migration, that's racism.
But you'd support a system that might have meant your own grandparents were deported from this country?
100%. We can't have
you would
policy.
Have supported your grandparents being deported?
Potentially, yes. If that's what we have to think at this stage, we have to think of
what. So if they were here, Sam, they came here as refugees, and under this system, it was decided that 20 years later it was safe for them to go home. You would have been happy for the British state to deport your own grandparents?
I would be very unhappy as it is now if that was be the case, telling them now. But I would also be unhappy if you told me that 1,000 years ago, if people didn't pay more taxes, we wouldn't have the NHS.
But I just want to be clear. You would support potentially your own grandparents having been deported?
I'm not saying that I would want my grandparents to be deported, but I would support a country that has.
But they might have been under the system that Shabana Mahmood is now introducing. They might have lived here 20 years. They might have they'd start a family. You're part of it. They might have been working. They might have started a business. They might have been volunteering in their local community. None of it would matter to the government under the new system, because if it was safe for them to go home, then off they go.
I fully understand that, but what we have to get over is that there has to be a point of a system is in place. People will suffer. If you're going to go around with the emotional aspect of people being deported,
it is emotional.
You just may as well open up the borders.
But Sam, when you say emotional...
It has to be emotional.
It is emotional. If we are deporting people who have built a life in this country, you cannot take the emotion out of it. You can't say, I'm sorry, it's sad, bye-bye.
But 100%, but it has to be policy-based. You can't just have... well, it feels bad that these people will be removed.
But there's no sort of objective answer here. There's no kind of completely emotionless, cold, calculated. What's the idea? This comes back to values, and you have to sort of pit the value of, as you say, fairness and living within our means and so on, against the values of decency and compassion. And for me, saying to somebody, well, you've been in this country 20 years. You've got kids here. They've never actually set foot in the country that you fled from, but we think it's safe for you to go home. So your entire family is being deported, which is what the government is talking about today. I don't think that sounds like decency and compassion. There is a risk that we go too far the other way. Then this clamour, this desperation to see who can sound the toughest on migration and be the harshest. We risk losing any values at all in this debate, Sam. So when you say emotion, to me, there's what I interpret that as not emotion, but as values in this conversation, which are going out the window rapidly, if you ask me.
On the first day of the war, I called you and we had a chat, and my has not changed at all. We should have been there fighting with the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
And to answer the question about why people are not interested, and just as an aside to that, I am a regular complainer to the BBC that they don't show Ukraine on the news.
Yeah.
And thankfully they do have Ukraine cast, which is about the only way that you've been able to get any information at all. But
I mean, this is chicken and egg, because I work in commercial media, and I wouldn't be here next year if every day I talked about the things that some people might consider to be the most important, but which response and reaction told me were not buttering parsnips up and down the country. So there is a tightrope to be walked. Public interest on the one hand and media reporting on the other, and they actually, oddly, they feed into each other. So public interest goes down, media reporting goes down, media reporting goes down, public interest goes down. It's very, very hard to know where one stops and the other begins. Not just to defend the BBC on the grounds that we're guilty of exactly the same thing.
Yes, you're right. It's led by what you think the public want to know.
Yes.
But, we've had all these major attacks, and
yes,
they rarely even get mentioned, despite, people being killed, and despite the fact that clearly they're targeting civilians, as well as trying to blow up all their heating and so forth. And yet we stand by and do nothing. We haven't heard from the Coalition of the Willing in months, and when we do hear from them, it's just words.
Yeah.
And the lady at the beginning, who quite frankly really got my hackles up.
Yeah, I don't know whether she was having a bad day, but I don't think she was representative of a constituency or cohort of thought or people
like that. And some do, and we know that in the United States they do. We don't want to have anything to do with foreign wars.
That's true.
We need to understand that our freedoms are at stake here.
Sell that to people listening. Just you can't prove it, but sell it, that idea. Because I'm agreeing with you, but I don't feel the sense of urgency that you clearly feel. If Putin is handed both impunity and rewards for the illegal invasion of a sovereign territory, we become more imperiled, even here in the United Kingdom.
We've got one of his ships threatening us in the north of Scotland.
Yes.
And, what were we doing? Last night on the news, they were in Estonia and speaking to the security people there on the Baltic.
And we've got the British politician with whom he's enjoyed a bromance for 20 years, currently leading the opinion poll. So from Vladimir Putin's point of view, everything's coming up roses.
Yes, but one, I'd like you to, I don't know if you heard him, but Lord Robertson was yesterday, and if he'd been head of NATO, I really believe things would have been different.
Gosh. But does it? I mean, I don't know how much agency the head of NATO has. He's more of a figurehead, isn't he, than a kind of...
Well, when you consider the one that's there just now, smooching up to Trump.
Yeah, that's true.
George Robertson would not have done that. And he was really clear on the dangers to all of us. And that's the problem. We just do not understand. Last week we stood in silence remembering the fallen.
Yes.
My father was in the war, and so it means a lot to me because I understand. But people just don't understand, and they don't seem to understand what the Russians are doing in Ukraine.
And they still don't.
No.
This point kind of proves that, doesn't it? I mean, I mean, so Trump doesn't care. Trump's, best mates with Mr. Bonesaw at the moment. The idea that he's got any form of moral compass is clearly ridiculous, and anybody who was possessed of a moral compass that wanted to serve in his administration either had to abandon their moral compass or decide that they weren't going to serve in his administration, which brings us to Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. Until yesterday, Trump's special envoy to Ukraine, who announced his resignation shortly after the details of this deal emerged. That speaks volumes, and in normal times would be a huge story and a major humiliation and embarrassment for the administration that he has resigned from. But Trump is comfortable, isn't he? This is the point that I think you're most exercised by. Trump is as comfortable with Putin's aggression as Putin is. If Putin went into another country tomorrow, Trump's probably not said anything about the attack on Poland.
Yeah.
And because it's so completely alien to everything we've grown up with in the post-war period, the idea that the United States of America would be in lockstep with a rampant Russia it's almost too extraordinary to accept, and yet you've clearly accepted it and don't understand why more people haven't.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I thought so.
Ian's in Waterloo. Farewell, Boris, politically.
Yeah, and hello, Belmarsh. That's what it should be.
And what?
He should
Sorry?
go to jail, Nick. Hello, Belmarsh.
Hello, Belmarsh. Sorry, sir. Go ahead. The jail in Woolwich. Yeah, on you go. Yep.
He should go to jail. If you're sending people from a hospital with COVID back into a care home with people that haven't got COVID, they're going to catch COVID and they're going to die. Doesn't take a rocket scientist. This man lied and deceived throughout his career. He's been sacked every single time from every single job if he hasn't resigned or been forced to resign.
Well, not as mayor. I just have to say, not as mayor. Go on, Ian.
Not as mayor. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's the only one. This guy's an absolute embarrassment to this country. And like I say, I think he should go to jail for what he's done. Now the inquiry's over, let the police take over and investigate.